live sometime. There we go.
I see the button.
Live.
Woo!
Woo.
Oh, wow. Well, since this is your channel, I think I'll shut up and let you do the intros. How does that sound?
That sounds magnificent. Hello, I'm Liz, and you might know me as Lizzie Books here on the YouTubes. And this is my cohort in crime, Caleb, who shows
I've always wanted to be a cohort.
Yep, a cohort. I don't even know what that word means, but there's usually somebody named Sarah Jane, also known as Mother Upping Books here, but she's not here. She has yet again, well, because of the fact that her computer is still broken.
She says, it's probably a lie. She hates us. Whatever.
Yeah, she just honest. No. We have had people just like slowly disappear out of our group or just, I don't know. But, yeah, she's pretty good at keeping up with stuff. But, yeah. So this is a week that I was like, yeah, this is the thing we do on the week. I feel like we just did this last week, but we didn't. We did this once every other week, so bi-weekly, fortnightly, however you want to say it, in which we talk about bookish news. So not quite like BookTube news, but just in general publishing news and things that we find that are interesting about books and articles and things. And there's usually some silliness involved. So those are the standards you can be aware of here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very important to be aware of standards that pretty much don't exist. That's true. We don't have any standards here, right?
No standards.
Anyone who's tuning in for the first time probably is wondering what the hell I'm doing on your channel, which you did explain, so I won't re-explain it. But just know that we
have a couple more viewers, so they might not know. They might be like, "Who is this guy?"
Well, and it's not, and I'm definitely not pushing for the limelight here. I'm just wanting to reassure everyone that you are on Liz's channel. That's all. That's all I need to say. You are on Liz's channel.
Not a crazy hacker guy who drinks beer.
It's a delicious coffee stout.
Even though, like, if you hacked my channel, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, that's probably something he'd do.
Yeah. No, I don't even know if you have those kind of skills. Just like, okay.
I promise I do not. Therefore, if anybody's computer gets hacked out there, it was not me. I can assure you that. I am not that good. Yeah. Oh, let me stretch here because I am tired today, and I don't really know why. I don't have an excuse to be tired, but I am tired today. But I did at least not nap through the first half of one of these, which has happened before.
Oh, yeah.
That's happened.
That was like the silliest live show that we have ever done.
I know. It makes me think I should...
Nap drunk. Like,
yeah.
No alcohol was involved, just nap drunk. Like...
It makes me think I should do that again because it seemed to work out. It's still being talked about. Where I just kind of came to the show with my hair all like, what? And I,
yeah, you were like, I just woke up.
Yeah. It wasn't my proudest moment, but but I've had very few proud moments in my life, so it's probably at least maybe in the top 10. So that's the number of moments I've had. Well, how about this? How about we dive right into talking about some of these articles we found, and as Liz mentioned, we just kind of talk about articles and stuff. And this week I think we found 4. KE-SHA, the Forsaken 707, found.
Oh yeah, one of our regular.
That's really cool. She's awesome, and that goes for everyone out there too. If you find just a cool book-related article, feel free to tweet it at me or at Liz, and just let us know about it because it's kind of cool. It's to be honest, usually what happens is about 10 minutes before these things, we sort of been going like a panicky scavenger hunt to try to find articles. Yeah. And it's not for lack of.
This past time, I had emailed myself some stuff, and I just forgot where it was. I was like, I totally bookmarked that stuff. No, I sent it to myself, and then I was like, I'm just going to put it in here now. So that was, like, early, but usually it's, like, 10 minutes before.
And I don't think it's for lack of dedication. I think we all still have a lot of fun with these. I think we truly forget. Simple as that. So
yeah, but that makes it even more like, okay, we're reading through this all together and being like, all right, these are my true reactions to this. And none of these are like sponsored craziness. It's just like us finding stuff on the internet that sounds cool.
That's a good point. Good point. Well, speaking of finding cool stuff on the internet, how about this first one from Melville House Books that you had found?
Oh yeah, about the NYC ID. I think.
Yeah.
I know that it has to do with library passes and basically these special library cards. You have to go stand in line and get them and whatever. And that was a part of the article. Was like, I went and stood in line, and then it took a while to get it. But basically, it'll get you into all the New York libraries, which they have like a ton of free events and stuff like that. Like all you have to do is like sign up for it and stuff like that. But I just thought that it was really cool that they do that. I know it has the Georgia Pines do all that kind of.
You are cutting out quite a bit, Eek. I don't know if you can hear me. Your face is frozen, and I don't hear any audio anymore. I don't know if anyone else can hear any audio. Can you hear me?
What?
Can you hear me?
I'm chopping up.
Can you hear? Yeah, you're chopping up a little bit. For everyone watching, this is not uncommon. Well, it's not uncommon. Technology is never, I don't think, any of our strong suits. So every once in a while, things go crazy. And
okay, I think I'm back.
Okay, yep, I can hear it. I think I'm back. That's what I heard.
Can you hear me now?
I can. It chopped off pretty much, just so you know, it chopped off pretty much right after you said something about free access to cultural events via this card. So, I mean, good 15 seconds or so.
I was talking about slow lines, and it decided to make my computer really slow. But
way to be relevant. Nice.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Maybe my parents are both on the internet at the same time streaming video, or I don't know what. We live out in the not quite boonies, so our internet is not. We have fast internet, but it just I don't know what it is. But yeah, I was basically saying that this library card will get you into all of the other New York libraries, I believe. And I guess that's something that they haven't done before. I live in Georgia, so basically any library that says, we're part of the Georgia Pines system, I can go in there and I can borrow books. So.
Yeah, it probably has to do a lot with population density in like those three areas.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many people that they probably just independently built up these library systems and they never sort of merged. So it's really cool. I mean, it's I think the sort of draw from the book perspective for this blog that you founded on in particular, this Melville House website, which is a great website with a great blog. The way that the article I think is written sort of ignores, I think, probably the fact that the primary reason most of these people are in line is probably to get because this ID also acts as an official government issued ID. And there's a lot of push for having government issued IDs, especially for like voting and stuff like that, which personally I think is just stupid to force people to have those kind of IDs. But that's not my, this isn't a political show. So but it's just I think that's probably part of it, and it's a very accessible way to get an ID. So it's very low entry point. It's easy to get. Other than having to wait in line. But hopefully what happens is that people will get it for the ID purposes and sort of realize all that the library has to offer and all of those cultural events that are going to be free that they can access have to offer and everything like that. So, I mean, it can't hurt. I think it's a pretty cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the same way here, too, where I live, as with you, Liz, where you kind of can get books from a variety of it does not necessarily just city by city or suburb by suburb or whatever. It's you can kind of get books almost anywhere, and there's a lot of libraries that belong to the core system and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I live in a fairly at least comparatively so, not very populated area of Kansas City, so it's probably easier for us as well. But yeah, it's pretty cool. The other one, the next article. Oh, and also I should say to everyone watching, please make comments as we're talking through these. Put your comments in there, and we'll respond to them. Also, comments amongst yourselves. I mean, the whole purpose of this is really just to have some time set aside to kind of talk through various book stuff and just have fun. So leave comments in there to us, leave comments to each other, and just sort of carry on conversations. We'll go through and definitely read those intermittently and definitely toward the end as well, and respond to them and all that kind of stuff. So it's free reign. Think of it like sitting in the living room with friends, and you're just kind of doing living room stuff, whatever that is. So there you go.
It's like listening to a podcast, but you actually get to respond to them.
Yeah, it's better than Serial. That's what this is. Better than the Serial podcast.
I haven't listened to Serial. I listen to Nerdist.
I love Nerdist. All their podcasts. Like, isn't the Nerdist like a big? Is there a podcast called Nerdist? Is that right? Well,
there's like a specific one called Nerdist, and then there's the Nerdist Podcast Network, which has like a bunch of stuff under it. So it's got like, I don't know. There's
That's what I was familiar with. I listen to like Pete Holmes is a really good podcast on there. He's like a comedian. He has a talk show. He's on the Nerdist Network. I've been noticing that a lot lately. Like a lot of cool like networks. There's a video game one that I really like, and it has all the people that belong to this. And it's also transitions into YouTube. There's like YouTube networks that also have.
Yeah.
And it's not network in the sense that you join the network to like sell. It's like a network of like-minded channels almost, and they get together and form this thing.
It like. Basically, you join a network to get the perks of like the basically getting your name out there, like the branding kind of stuff, but also like along the same lines, you get a lot of perks as far as like being a partner that way. I know we're going off on a tangent. Basically, since I'm my Elizabeth channel is partnered with Big Frame, I get there's like a library of royalty-free music that YouTube has, and there's something else in the I think there's some other stuff like when you upload videos that you can do. I think it's like you can actually, I don't know if this is everybody or just this kind of stuff, but basically you can say, so and so directed this, and like actually credit people. So, like, credit different channels in there, so I just thought that was cool.
That is pretty cool. And actually, since we're on the topic, just speaking of it, I literally just today canceled my contract with, I was under Maker Studios, and they do, like, the RPM network, and I canceled it literally today. Just one, I haven't made too many videos, so I felt I wasn't really doing much to help out. But also, I didn't like the royalty split, so I kind of I was like, I'm done with it. But the one sort of benefit, really the only benefit that I saw with being part of that network was the royalty-free music, basically. They had a huge library that they went through. Some site called like Audio Micro or something, and you can use all the sound effects and music you want, which can be pretty costly if you use all the sound effects. So it was worth it from that perspective, but at the same time, I just don't make many videos anymore, so I just kind of stopped. That's how it goes. I don't know how we got on that. Oh yeah, networks. Yeah, podcasts. Podcasts.
Yep, it's all about rabbit trails. I'm the master of the rabbit trail.
Oh goodness. Well, let's gracefully move on to this next article, because I really like this article that you found about Pulp Fiction. So yeah, tell us about that. It's really cool.
I haven't read it in like 2 or 3 weeks, but it was talking about it's called How Pulp Fiction Saved Literature, and the sub-little thing is the covers were often trashy, the contents were often high art, but the low cost of the ubiquitous paperback created millions of new readers in America. So, and I kind of like, with the idea of Pulp Fiction, and we're not talking about the movie, it kind of also ties into a little bit with young adult fiction, possibly. I want somebody to like write something that's like I know that there's some like I don't know how to combine the two, but basically like the whole idea of Pulp Fiction was that it was cheap and you can find it anywhere. So like the mass market paperbacks, I don't know if those are technically paperback, but I mean Pulp Fiction, but Because it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, I think based on, and I have a little bit of experience with Pulp Fiction, in the sense that there's been, among the small presses, there's been a sort of a resurgence of going back to that sort of style and that look and that cheaply published or cheaply produced kind of feel. And that's where the term pulp comes from. Is it was basically using pulped paper, so paper that was really low quality, and that's what they would print it on, so to make the books really cheap. And Pulp Fiction for a lot of people was sort of the entry point to reading. Books were still pretty expensive in the 20s to 20s to 50s, I guess, would be sort of probably the heyday of Pulp Fiction. It was books were still pretty expensive, relatively speaking. So they cut a lot of corners and a lot of costs to try to produce these really cheap books. And that got it into the hands of people, and it really, I think, contributed a lot to the proliferation of just literacy in general. More people had access to books, so they were more likely to read books. And from a commercial or selling standpoint, what really kind of sold them, and that's what the focus of this article is primarily about, was that the covers, what they would do is they would put sort of really, it was almost untruth in advertising in a weird way, because they would put these very lurid covers, and they would change titles of things to get people to pick them up and buy them.
Oh yeah.
But the actual content of the book was actually legitimate literature in a lot of ways. So one of the examples they gave that I thought was really great was there was apparently a nonfiction Holocaust memoir, which is about as serious as you can possibly get, and the book was titled Five Chimneys. That was the name of the memoir, and it was released. It doesn't say when it was originally released, but in 1947, it was retitled "I Survived Hitler's Ovens," and it was basically it was a paperback, and it was re-released as a paperback. The cover, there's a big giant cover blurb that said "The Uncensored Truth," so it had this very sort of tabloid feel to it, but it was a very serious book, and so it got people interested, got people picking up those books, and it happened a lot to bring, it allowed a lot of the article tries to take I don't know as much about this, but it also took a sort of pro-feminist and even sort of pro-gay and lesbian slant to it too, because for the first time books were visually depicting sort of what heterosexual males would think of as sexy. But this was a way for lesbian women to pick those books up as well and enjoy them as well, and it was a form of it was just a form of I guess art that that wasn't really commercially available yet. So it played a big role in doing a lot of things, even though at its heart the original purpose of the pulp book was really just to churn out kind of smutty, stupid stories. Of course, the Holocaust memoir excluded from that, but that was just one example where they would take a serious thing and bind it in a lurid cover. But in plenty of cases, they would take a lurid cover and inside it put lurid content too. It was just sort of sleazy, trashy content. But there's also legitimate study going to it, because not just for social and cultural aspects, but also just literary aspects. They're actually digging into it a little bit, and there's a lot of cool stuff that was coming of it. For a while, I was trying to collect old Pulp Fiction books and stuff, and I couldn't really get that far because they're harder to find than you'd think nowadays, because I think a lot of people are keeping them. But I just thought it was really cool. I mean, anyone out there who's interested, this is also probably the precursor to we talk about, especially KE-SHA often sends us articles and links to really crazy, trashy erotica.
Yeah.
Like Kindle erotica, and this is almost precursor to that. I don't want to say they're exactly related because they're not terribly, but in a way it kind of is. And also bizarro fiction, which is another thing KE-SHA is sending us links to. So. I
feel like it with what you're talking about, it made literature not just the higher stuff, but any form, anything that was printed, it made it more available to people who maybe hadn't totally gotten into reading as any sort of hobby before, or even had that thought, and so things I don't know, it kind of draws my eye to draws my mind to mass market paperback books and stuff like that, because those are pretty cheaply made and whatnot, but you got all sorts of books coming through that way, I guess.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just kind of endless. Because I think now we're for the most part we're very spoiled when it comes to the amount of books and content that we can go online and get anything we want. We can go to any grocery store and buy romance novels. I mean, there was a time when you just couldn't do that, and so that's why pulp was really kind of revolutionary, because it did finally bring books into commoners' living rooms, and just didn't do that in the past. So it was for that reason, if only that reason, but for more reasons, but if only that reason, it's worth understanding and embracing it. It was talking. I thought it was really interesting here. It said one of Jorge Luis Borges' first stories in English translation appeared in basically a pulp magazine, which I wasn't aware of. And for anyone who doesn't know Jorge Luis Borges, he's like a truly like highly super respected literary writer from Argentina. He died in the 80s, I think. But he's one of those writers that everyone is like, oh yeah, he's a literary writer. He invented basically magical realism, which is a type of sort of I don't know, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which was on Oprah's book list and everybody read it. That was also magical realism, but Jorge Luis Borges was basically the guy who invented that style of writing, and so I don't know. It's just it's cool to see that he was in that. I had no idea, but yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that was a very cool article. Thank you for finding that. Move on to the next one. It's 9 o'clock, and also I cannot remember if you mentioned this up front, Liz, so forgive me, but these things do last about an hour. So at 9:30 U.S. Central Time is when we'll cut it off, and also it goes private, so it's never to be seen again. It's definitely a live. It goes back into the vault. Yep. To pull out to blackmail people later on.
Yes. So. I'm just kidding. You can. It's basically so you guys can like say whatever you want. If you want to be like, this article is dumb, I didn't get it, and you can say it, and we'll see it, but our feelings won't be hurt because we didn't write those articles. We're just talking about them.
My feelings will be hurt.
Oh yes, because you spent so much time researching this.
Yeah. One Geekpron Vlogs mentioned YA and Pulp Fiction is not a good example, as Pulp Fiction writers were masters with cheaply trashed covers, and YA is great covers with cheap writing.
I don't know, like it just like the accessibility of the two. Yeah, I think is like the thing that interests me most. And I know that there are some really great YA authors, but then there's I don't know.
And when I was first reading that, like I started reading it out loud, and I realized what he was saying. I thought it was originally just going to be a comment on like the covers, and how the covers are just like sort of almost an artifact in and of themselves, and how there are people out there who collect just the covers and frame the covers and stuff like that. And I was going to be like, oh yeah, cool. And then I realized, oh wait, he's making a joke. I get it. It's awesome. Okay, so the next one on the list, number 3 of 4, this one I thought was pretty interesting. It's called Children's Reading Shows Simultaneous Rise and Decline. How can that add up? This is from The Guardian. And it's basically just citing a couple of different studies that are saying children are reading less, and there's other studies that are saying children are reading more. I thought the article, before I get into it in depth, I thought the article was very light on actual data. It was sort of making these vast generalizations and these conclusions that I didn't quite believe, but basically the crux of their argument is YA novels are selling a lot, which apparently this author categorizes as children's reading. YA novels, cite specifically John Green's The Fault in Our Stars.
Of course.
Are rising.
YA, you know.
But the number of children who read for pleasure is apparently on the decline, and I think it's pretty obvious. And the article, to be fair, the article does make this point also, that it's probably just more adults buying YA books. I mean, adults that grew up with YA are still reading YA. It's more accessible.
Exactly.
And I think that's really all it is. It's as simple as that, probably.
Yeah, because, like, also with talking about YA, like, it is a part of children's literature, so, like, that is a big age group.
Yeah.
So, like, you've got, not, it, I know there's, like, we're not counting picture books, but, like, chapter books to, however old YA, the oldest YA protagonist, probably, like, 18, sometimes 19. But, yeah, so that's a big range of people. But, yeah, it doesn't really tell you... I don't know. Yeah, it's very, like, vague as far as, like, okay, who are these children that you talk to or whatever. It's just kind of like, there are 8,000 or 800,000 people who are born, and then numbers, percents, and stuff.
Yeah, it's a little like weak. I mean, the numbers probably make sense. I don't know. I just didn't dig into them too much, but it could also be like they mentioned a statistic here that said 55% of YA titles are bought by adults, which makes, I mean, that plays into what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and then you also have, like, adults who are buying it for their children.
Yeah,
so.
That's also very true as well. So, I was definitely, I wish they would have used more specific examples than John Green. I think maybe it's just clickbait or something. They're trying to get John Green, but I mean, his books are selling widely, and not.
Oh yeah, it's still. I'm pretty sure it's still on the New York Times bestseller list. Like.
Yeah, and it's not because, and he's sort of the outlier. He's the anomaly. It's not because. I mean, the book is probably good. I've never read it, but it's also the book is a movie, and John Green has a huge YouTube following, and John Green has a lot of causes that he's working for, things that are completely unrelated. Authoring, so it's not just the fact that his book was a YA book and it sold well. There's so many other factors.
Like so much, like not just like Penguin marketing stuff. Like I'm sure they could just I'm sure they could have maybe. I don't know if they've stopped marketing that book at all, but like you could probably say, hey, Penguin, see what happens when you stop marketing this book, and sales might waver tiny bit somewhere, but for the most part somebody's going to be like, hey grandma, did you read this? Or hey cousin, did you read this? And like it spreads like other ways, and like you said, he's got his face just about everywhere. So
yep. And it used to be, it's becoming less so, but it used to be that in publishing houses, publishers would bank on these big name authors so that they could take chances on other books that they aren't quite sure will work or not. It seems
like it's still like that's how people talk about publishing houses. Is that like they still have to do that so that they can spend a little bit, or be able to pick up those mid list or whatever you want to call them.
Yep. They're just because books sales are different and the distribution venues are so much more. What's it called? Media fragmentation. The media is so much more fragmented than it used to be. I think they're less able to make those types of chances. But I hope they continue to do that because some of my most favorite authors are little known. So
yeah, and I feel like now they probably take in account like your following already and stuff like that. As far as because I've met authors who were like, yeah, my so-and-so told me that I needed to up my game as far as my social media, and go look at John Green, and you can tell that they're just like, and I just want to be like, just be yourself and do what you're comfortable with. That's my thing is like, if you're going to be an author and you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to have to be on social media somehow to put your name out there. I'm just like, do what, if you like Twitter and that's your thing, do it. If you like Facebook better,
Yeah, and if you don't have any sort of especially with bigger publishing houses, and this has always been the case, really, is that publishers when they buy books, what factors into their decision is probably 20% the quality of the writing and 80% the marketing potential for that author, and within that 80%. Looks are probably a certain percentage. In all honesty, it is. I mean, that looks are probably a certain percentage. Your audience that you already have developed, or your platform is the speak that they like to use as part of it. So it's somewhat disheartening to know that the quality of the book is not nearly as important as your platform. But that's always been the case.
Yeah.
It's weird because I'm in the middle of trying to write a blog post about this kind of thing, but there is something to be said for sales figures. I mean, sales figures is one of the very few tangible metrics that you can use to measure the success of a book. And sales figures don't measure quality by any means. Well, I won't say by any means, but in some ways that it might. But for the most part, sales figures don't really measure quality. They measure sellability. Sellability sometimes is an indicator of quality, but not always. And so you have to, and that's really the bottom line of a business. I mean, publishers are businesses. That's what they do. They wouldn't publish out of the goodness of the heart. That's not sustainable. You would think that would be, you wish it could be the case, but it's not, and it can't be. But so you have to sort of realize that books are being marketed based on how well they think they can sell, not really on quality. But when books sell a lot, like a particular book, like a John Green's book, and again, I'm not speaking to quality. I've never read the book, but when John Green's book does sell really, really well and it makes a lot of money for that publisher, that allows the publisher to take chances on books that might not have the sellability, might have an unattractive author, might have those types of things that really they can try to get the quality out there. Because, there's certain lists out there, like a Booker Prize or a Pulitzer even. Those tend to be based on quality rather than sales figures. Not always, but they do tend to be. So, and if a publisher can say, I have a Booker Prize winning author on my slate, that helps sell books as well. So if there's an ugly author out there and they can't sell books because of their appearance, they can hopefully sell their books based on quality because they got listed on like a Booker Prize or something like that. So there's a lot of games that go into it and a lot of stuff that plays into it. But ultimately, it comes down to we get books that we like and that's good. And I don't know where I was going with that, but there you go.
There you go.
There you go.
I got really engrossed in reading ahead to the article that KE-SHA sent to us.
It's so good.
Written by Renzi, so you know it's good.
Oh yeah.
And about golden binoculars and.
That's awesome. Well, then let's jump right over to that because, and to be honest, I didn't even realize it was written by Renzi. That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't either because I know KE-SHA sent it to us, and I was like, I'll see it later. Like, I'm gonna read that later.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the website URL. Did you see that?
The what?
http:// the most thrilling reading experience money can buy by jamespatterson.com. I didn't know you could buy a URL that long.
That is awesome. Oh man, I just clicked on it.
Like, because I used to be subscribed to his newsletter, and then it just got annoying. And I think at one point I followed him on Twitter, and then he was demanding that the president see a petition that he was getting people to sign, and it was like the week after Small Business Saturday, and the president had been to a small independently owned thing and our bookstore, and he had bought books in public, and I forget what else, and then there was like something else, I forget what it was. It was like, that he needed to do a press conference saying that people should read more to save bookstores. And James Patterson is so funny.
I can honestly say I've never read any of his books, and not for the sake of just being crazy. The conceits don't interest me, so I just haven't. But he is one of those books that those in the snobbish literary crowd, which I do tend to belong to, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, tend to put down quite a bit. James Patterson, James Patterson, what a tool.
Well, he has so many ghostwriters, or not even ghostwriters. It's like it's got his name in big, and then and that's like something like I had read a middle grade book that his name was on, but it was definitely written by somebody else. It's just kind of like, oh hey, it's James Patterson and so, and it's like, yeah, he probably went over the manuscript or whatever, but.
Yeah, I read somewhere about his process, and we'll definitely get to the article, but I read something about his process where it was very strange. It was an interview, and it talked about his contribution is that he basically writes like a 60-page outline. So he writes this very detailed 60-page outline, sends that to the ghostwriter, or not even ghostwriter because they're getting credit, so sends it to basically the co-writer, and the co-writer writes the entire 500-page novel based on like the 60-page outline. And in the interview, it was very strange because Patterson was like adamant to defend like how important his contribution was, that 60-page outline, and he was adamantly defending it as though it made sense, but to me a 60-page outline does not a novel make. Like, the writer, the other true writer of the book, is not just filling out fluff.
No.
I mean, they're having to keep the story cohesive. And so I'm sure Patterson's contributing some, but he's not contributing enough to like have his name be dominant.
That's the same as like some of these like write for hire kind of ideas, as far as like, you know, oh, we're gonna give you this outline and you're basically like, I've heard of some publishers, like there's some publishers out there that do that, where it's just like, oh, hey, you know, we'll hire you to basically fill out this idea or whatever. I don't know how it all works, but you know, they get paid for it. They get to keep writing things.
Yeah, true. So the story itself is basically about how Patterson basically said if the first person to contribute $294,038, or to give him that, gets all this stuff, including a special signed copy of his new book, a first-class flight to an undisclosed location, 2 nights in a luxurious hotel, 14-karat gold-plated binoculars that are engraved with Patterson's initials, a 5-course dinner with Patterson, the entire Alex Cross series autographed by Patterson, plus an opportunity to watch a SWAT team destroy the novel in spectacular fashion, none of which are even remotely, like, interesting to me. So
no, especially the undisclosed location. Like,
that's creepy. Like I don't want that.
Like, that sounds like getting catfished or something. Like, that just sounds weird.
Yeah, I don't want that. I want
I want you to be like, hey, oh, well, you know, we're going, because it's called Private Vegas, so why not be like, oh yeah, Vegas, cool, yeah, let's do it.
That's what, and you would think that this whole thing, because the article itself focuses a lot on the weirdly exact sum of the request. So it makes me think that even that all of these items, all of these things they're giving away, the binoculars, the dinner, SWAT team destroying the book, all of these things have something thematically to do with the novel. It would have to, I would think, which also makes me think that exact amount of money has something to do with the thematic, the novel itself. I would hope. Otherwise, it's just sort of weird, crazy insanity. But you'd have to be a huge fan to want to do this. I mean, even like for my favorite authors, even if I had that much money just lying around, like those things aren't like interesting enough. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but none of those things seem interesting to me.
Nope.
No. There's a nice GIF of what's her face. This is speaking my age. I can't remember her name. The America's Next Top Model.
Tyra Banks.
Tyra Banks, thank you. Doing like sort of a crazy double take.
Yeah.
Of course, I did get Scrooge McDuck though right away. I was like, Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, that Scrooge
very familiar.
McDuck kind of transcends the eras.
Yeah, very familiar with that guy. Yeah, so anything else in that article? By the way, check out Rincey's channel if you haven't. Everyone watching, I'm sure you have. She's very popular. Very good.
Yeah, she's super popular. She's an up-and-coming booktuber. You've probably never heard of her before.
Yeah, this, underground stuff.
Yeah. I was listening to Amy Poehler's memoir this week, and she starts talking. She and one of the guys who created Parks and Rec were talking about Louis C.K., and they're like, "Yeah, he's a really great guy. He's this up and coming comic. You probably never heard of him before. He's going places." I was like,
"That's awesome."
This guy who has a show named after himself,
Yeah.
This up and coming comic.
Actually, but see, you'll notice that the show is spelled not the same way that his name is spelled. So technically, he's a character because it's not actually him,
definitely.
Right? Of course. Even though the guy wears black shirts all the time and does stand-up comedy at the Comedy Cellar, which is everything that Louis C.K. does. Did you know how he got the name Louis C.K.?
No idea.
It's very interesting. His real last name is actually C.K., and so that's how he pronounces his real last name is C.K., so he just went by Louis C.K.
Oh, yeah, that's smart.
Yep, because he's actually his dad is Mexican, which you wouldn't think looking at him because he's this red hair white dude, like super white dude. So yeah, that's that little knowledge for you. Yeah, and his new special he just released, I think, yesterday. So I haven't seen it yet, but I am looking forward to it.
He always does cool things with his specials. Like I think he was the first one that I saw doing like the pay. I think it was like pay $5 and you get.
Yep. And he's doing that with this one too. He's done that with all of them because I mean, it was really cool. He was one of the first ones to do it, and it made him a shit ton of money. And so he and that's probably, I don't know if that's exactly why he's doing it now. It's also just much easier, and it cuts out all of the overhead and the marketing costs and all that crap that people have to pay for. So, but yeah. And it's in a much smaller venue this time. It's not like an arena. It's like a small comedy club this time, which is cool.
Okay, yeah, because I know Aziz Ansari has done that at least once. And then the next one, because I was listening to, he was on a podcast on Nerdist. It was like a year or two ago, and I was listening to it, and he was like, oh, yeah, and then the next one I was like, maybe I should, I don't know, I guess he just wants to try different things every time, and so he was like, I guess he pitched it to different places, and Netflix picked it up.
Interesting. And to bring it full circle, Aziz Ansari's first book is coming out, I think, maybe it's the middle of this year, but it's I
didn't know
apparently like a, it's like a dating guide kind of thing, but like a humorous, I think, memoir dating guide. So I think it would be really funny. I've been a fan of his. I have an old CD called Invite Them Up, and it's like a 3 CD set. And it was back when he was like 18, so he has like 5 minutes of comedy on the CD, and it's super funny. Like as soon as you hear it, you're like, of course this guy's gonna be a star.
I remember him on like Human Giant, and that's why I started watching. Like that's one of the reasons I was like, oh, Amy Poehler and that guy from Human Giant, they're both on a show together. I want this in my life, and so.
Oh yeah, the Human Giant. That was so good. That was such a funny show. Yep. I need to see if I can go find old episodes of that.
Oh yeah,
I'm looking up Aziz Ansari's book, but all I see is an article about how he and Lena Dunham got paid the same, but she deserves more, or something like that. I should probably really read like the specifics before I go around saying what that.
She does like write her own shows and all that. She does a bunch of stuff for her show, but he does other stuff too. I don't know.
I don't know what else he does. I mean, I'm sure he does something, but yeah. It's called Intimate Moments for a Sensual Evening. No, that's the DVD. Sorry. God dang it. I can't find any information about the release date for this damn book.
It's a good release.
Yeah.
Which it never has accurate information, but it might.
I'm bad at the internet, is what I'm learning. Aziz Ansari. Oh no, maybe it was. You know what? I'm not even gonna try to look through here.
Oh, there's somebody wrote an unabridged guide to Aziz Ansari. I don't know.
Really?
It's called Modern Romance.
Modern Romance. Here it is. Yeah, I'm gonna look Entertainment Weekly. It just says 2015 is all I'm saying now.
Both of these are saying June 16, 2015.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I've been on a comedian memoir kick for the last couple months, and I will say I've read some great ones. Tina Fey's book is amazing. Mike Birbiglia's book is amazing. I've read both Jim Gaffigan books, and I won't say they're amazing, but if you like Jim Gaffigan, you'll like them. But if you don't like Jim Gaffigan, you probably won't. However, I will say I was very disappointed in Amy Poehler's. I didn't really like it, and maybe if I listened to it, I'd like it.
I feel like if you've watched her stuff, like if you enjoy, her stuff, I don't know. I just feel like I've been watching her since she was on Saturday Night Live and all that stuff. But also, I don't know. I don't know. A lot of it's just like her memory. So it's. I think part of it is that it's very, very, very non-linear to the point where it's like. Okay, wait, what were we talking? Okay.
Well, and I can even out
memoir.
I can even out hipster you because I was watching her since she was a person. She was one of the actors on Conan O'Brien, the original Conan O'Brien show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I'm super old. First of all,
you mentioned that, and I was like, I don't remember that. So
she was kind of one of those. You know, when you watch Conan and there's like those actors that just are in skits. She was one of those. She might have been a writer too. I can't remember. And then she was on a show called Upright Citizens Brigade on Comedy Cent. That was a super good show. If you can find that online, it's just so funny. And so then she did all this other stuff. And so I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan. I think it was like, I don't know. I felt like maybe I wasn't the right audience for it because she did talk a lot about female empowerment and stuff, which obviously I'm a big fan of. But for me personally, it can't resonate because I don't understand that context. So so I think that was part of it, and I think that was the same issue I had with God, what's her name from Mindy Kaling. I think that was the same issue I had with her book because it was funny enough, but there was also a lot of like stuff that I just could, it wasn't for me.
Yeah, a lot of it's just kind of like their experiences as women and stuff like that.
Yeah, so. Which, and I mean, Sarah Silverman, that was another one I read recently that was super, super good, and hers deals a lot with that too, but it also deals with just like things like peeing your pants all the time and stuff. So
it had this, like, bedwetter? Yeah,
the bedwetter. I really liked it. A lot of people that I know didn't like it as much. They didn't think it was very funny, and it's not like her humor. It's not like a stand-up routine on paper. It's a legitimate memoir, and it's really good. I thought. But then I think the most recent one I read that's so good is Patton Oswalt's. It's called like Zombie Spaceship Wasteland or something, and it's if you like Patton Oswalt, it is so good. And he has a new book coming out this month, I think, actually. Or maybe it already came out.
He's got something coming out because everybody's
been on TV. It's just really good. So I feel like I just dumped a lot of information out there.
I just finished reading Kevin Smith's book, Tough Shit. That one.
Is it good?
It's crazy. It's very Kevin Smith. Just know that. There's some stuff that you're just like, I know way too much about your bodily fluids, sir. But then there's some like stuff about like I feel like the middle of the book is just like really amazing because it's just like, okay, go do the stuff that you love to do and love your art and do the things that you love to do in so many words. But it's one of those books that you can sit down and you could just read. Like it's one of those books that like I would never fall asleep reading it. So.
That's awesome. I'm in the middle of reading What If by Randall Munroe, which is it's called Serious Scientific Answers to Absurd Hypothetical Questions. And the reason I bring it up real quick is because it sounds in the same way that you can't put down sort of the Kevin Smith book, and it's sort of a unique kind of book to be. You just have to be in the right mind for it. I think this is the same way, but. It's full of awesome pictures, and it answers weird freaking questions. Like, let me see if I can find an example here. So the first one is, what would happen if the Earth and all terrestrial objects suddenly stopped spinning, but the atmosphere retained its velocity? And he just goes on, and this guy's like a NASA scientist, but he's really funny. And he just goes on and explains what would happen if that happened. What would happen if you tried to hit a baseball pitched at 90% the speed of light? He goes on and talks about that. It's really, really funny. It's good.
Cool.
Good learning stuff.
Learning stuff.
All right, so we have 5 minutes left. I think it's probably good. Maybe we go through and talk and look at the comments, possibly, maybe. Unless you have anything else. Anything additional to add to James Patterson?
He cray. That's it.
Yes, that's true. He is true.
He just like the stuff that he says on Twitter to be like, oh my gosh, guys, I need you to sign my petition. And it's like, I get what you're going towards. And he does do a lot of good stuff for like independent bookstores, but sometimes I'm like, you don't need to like harass people on the internet.
Yeah.
Especially if they have like they clearly have like a publicity firm running their stuff, like.
Oh yeah, and you've got to imagine too when you get that successful, that just by default, unless you're like someone like Bill Gates or somebody who genuinely tries to do charitable things and stay out of the limelight as much as possible. You have to imagine, and I know I would probably succumb to this too, if I were as successful as James Patterson, I would probably get a bit of an ego, and I would probably, big time people all the time. That's just probably what would happen. So it's a good thing I'm not hugely successful because that would happen. So that's maybe what he's doing there too, just being a little turd. Let's see. KE-SHA saying that it's nice to know that we have learned to fear/respect her links. That's true. We have done that.
Yeah, there's like a kind of like curiosity, but then sometimes I'm like, what? Then I saw somebody tweet today about it was something about being haunted. I think it was something about being haunted by a gay unicorn or something like that. It was like one of those. And I was like, oh, I've seen this before. It's like her comment, did you guys read the comments on the article? One person said, did James Patterson actually write this book? Because maybe I want to have dinner with the ghostwriter.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that would be a much more engaging conversation. You probably have learn more, and you wouldn't hear a bunch of marketing shellac. You would probably hear like someone who's genuinely like, I want to write and I want to do good. There's one at the very bottom. DeBooks 658 asks, have you read Outlander? I have not.
No. I think that's the one with the Scottish people who, I don't even know what's involved in that. It's like a bazillion-page book, and I have several friends who are like, I'm reading this book, and I'm like, good luck with that. I don't know why you're doing that to yourself. But, there's a lot of romance. I don't know.
I had some coworkers who were reading it voraciously and always talking about it. So
yeah.
But I didn't pick up too much on it. So
yeah.
I just saw KE-SHA's comment like 42 minutes ago. Yes, Liz, who is this weirdo? If you're being held hostage, just blink many times and we'll mount a rescue one day. Wow. So she went from actually caring to not giving a rat's ass. Wow. Way to go, KE-SHA. We'll mount a rescue. Yeah, one day.
Jenna explains it also. I follow Aziz Ansari's cousin on Twitter because he talked about him in his stand-up. Weird and slightly creepy fact. He talks about his cousin all the time.
He does.
I was following him too. So you're not the creepiest person in the room.
Is that the cousin who he says is like a fat Indian kid, and it's like you never see fat Indian kids, so it's like he's an anomaly?
Maybe.
I think.
There's also like a cousin who like I forget what it is. Yeah.
I think, and that's one too. Like Aziz like tapped into like his cousin's like homework forum, and it was like a forum where he was talking about homework and stuff, and Aziz like pretended he was a student and was like contributing ideas and information, and finally his cousin found out and was like, you gotta leave, this is not cool. And then I think Aziz mentioned something about how he then like started accusing his cousin of masturbating. And he's like, because like, you know, pre-pubescent like high school kids just can't stand that, and it's like, so it immediately like just he got crazy with it. Oh, I should go watch that. I need to watch that again.
Yep.
So funny. McFoz1 asks, anybody know anything about Roman and Mongol Empire? Taxation. Anyone know anything about Mongol taxation?
No, people like to come onto my channel and ask me for questions on at work. Like, I've had that, not necessarily that question, but yeah. I don't think she's seriously asking us.
Yeah.
But
well, she said
people like they're like, so, and it's like after I've done a review of like a Jane Austen book, and they're like, so what are the themes of this book? And I'm like, what? What's a theme?
That's everyone's homework then, because we're at 9:30 right now, so we got to cut it off. But that's everyone watching's homework is to post a question on Liz's videos asking ridiculous questions about the books that she reviews.
Please do it. Just go on there and just be like, what is the meaning of life?
Yep, that's true. 42. That's the answer, right? The answer to life. But no, McFalls, I wish you luck. It does look like I hope you're still procrastinating on your history essay. The only thing I know about Mongols is that the Great Wall of China was built to keep them out of China. That probably doesn't help because that has nothing to do with taxation.
But did you know that the Great Wall of China wasn't always great?
Wow. Did you know 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance? That's a wonderful way to win.
Any coffee today. This is what happens.
Well, you should have a coffee stout from Schlafly.
Always.
Around.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. This is your channel, Liz. So I will let you.
Thank you for coming and talking with us about crazy stuff. If you have any suggestions as far as articles, just send them our way. You know where to find me. So I hope you guys have a great night and keep reading.